Welcome to Reshair on ESPN 730. For the next hour, your host, Chris Reshair, will bring fresh air to your financial needs. Excite, educate, and empower you to make sound financial decisions. Chris is a seasoned licensed mortgage consultant with NFM Lending. Originator license number 117266.
Welcome to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshair, and if you were just listening to our intro, the goal of our show each and every week here on Reshair Radio is to bring in local experts and contributors that make this show interesting. And we talk about real estate, we talk about finance, we talk about credit repair, financial planning, etc. So that's what Reshair is all about. My name is Chris Reshair, and I'm your host, and I'm a licensed loan officer with NFM Lending. So As always, I'm excited about a new show for the week and would like to go ahead and get started on our intros for the week. So today I'd like to welcome two guests here in the studio. I've got Marcus Dilley and Rich Tomasini with eXp Realty, or Team eXp. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
Glad to have you on the show. So we spent quite a bit of time together sort of preparing for our show today, and really, why I'm excited is because you're kind of bringing some new information to the real estate market, which I think will roll down to people that want to buy and sell homes in terms of the way real estate is done. And I think we're going to really roll into that a little bit later into the show as get into it. We also have later coming up at the end of our show, Adam Kunda with National Credit Care. He's our credit guy, talks about ways to improve your credit. So we'll hear from him a little bit later in the show. So before we sort of break out into our themes and all that jazz, Marcus, I know you've been a licensed realtor since 2007. Is that right?
That is correct.
And you're licensed where?
North and South Carolina.
Awesome. So got to cover the states that we here on the south side, right? And then Rich, you all are licensed where?
I'm in North Carolina, and I still out the Lake Norman area.
So you cover the lake area. Yeah. All right, perfect. And you've been doing this for how long?
Since December of 2006.
All right. So you guys got good 10 plus years of experience, a little bit of time. That's right.
Don't age us out, Chris.
That's right. So that's good. That's good experience. So really what I like our listeners to understand first is, how did you guys get started in real estate? Because if you think back to what you want to be when you grow up, I think each one of my kids said they wanted to be a truck driver, a trash driver, fireman. Nobody ever says, I want to be in real estate. Maybe unless you're Donald Trump. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I've got some friends that have lived out that truck driver experience.
Exactly. My dad was a truck driver at one point too. So, Marcus, why don't you tell us about how you got started in the business?
Yeah, so I was a builder actually in my 20s and was really interested in that process. I ended up doing interior trim carpentry for custom homes, so the fancy molding and stairways and fireplaces and all that fun stuff.
Back when it was a little fancier too.
Back when it was a little
It's not quite as in vogue now.
Yeah, we did some really cool stuff. Coffered ceilings, and I really got into that. I really liked the sort of the detail, the meticulous nature of some of that, and I love the sort of hands-on, being able to look back and say, I did this, and let families and people who owned those homes experience the work that we did. And I always thought about it would be cool to think about the families that would have the pictures on the mantles and the fireplaces as the kids would grow up, and I was a part of that, so I love that experience.
Cool. And then from there you went.
I actually was a national recording artist, so I kind of made a little bit of a
welcome back to the studio.
Yeah. So we can save that for another time. But when I came back to Charlotte after leaving the record business, I decided to get licensed. I started out in property management and sales, and then from there just kind of expanded.
Cool. Great. Rich, why don't you share your experience with our listeners here this morning?
Yeah, sure. I was actually just about ready to fail out of my third year in college in Florida. And apparently
I failed almost my first year, but third year, go ahead.
I didn't want to talk about the first year because I don't remember anything.
Okay, got
it. But anyway, my hand modeling career got paused. And in order to reconcile the good grace of my parents, I decided to move back down to Fort Lauderdale and become a real estate appraiser working under my dad because my future looked quite dim.
So your dad was an appraiser?
Yeah, he was a great real estate appraiser, well known in South Florida, and I was an apprentice under him for 6.5 years to start off my career.
One thing that I don't know that even real estate agents, mortgage professionals, and the general public really understand, that being an appraiser is actually a really hard job.
Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge.
It's not easy to appraise homes, and it's not that you can't go in and take pictures and measure and go, hey, here's what I think it's worth, but the requirements that you have to follow in order to be compliant with lending guidelines, compliant with appraisal management companies, and also with state boards and what states require, it's not an easy job. And you may go into a house and then you see another one and then another one and another. You might do 4 in one day, and then you've got hours and hours of reports to do when you get back, and people think, well, why is it taking so long to get this information? And then lenders tear it apart. A lot of times, clients don't understand that lenders tear these appraisals apart before they even see it most of the time. But go ahead. So
no, Chris, my goodness. Amen. So underwriters are really a tough situation because underwriters control the adjustments that the market warrants. But if it doesn't fit in their box, like you can't do time adjustments often in an increasing market with underwriters. So they can be a real handcuff there. And if any underwriters,
even though there should maybe be one because the market is
whatever the market warrants is what should be,
Correct.
So if there's any underwriters out there listening to this, you guys are tough. So
we still love you though.
Yeah. You're very important.
Remember, I'm a mortgage guy, okay? For my NFM lending underwriters.
Chris loves underwriters.
That's right.
So anyway, we and it's a real apprenticeship. To be a real estate agent, it's like a 75-hour course, no college degree, no mentorship like that.
You put your first listing sign up and you're good.
You fake it till you make it.
You drink it through a fire.
Yeah.
Hydrant.
Yeah, exactly.
But appraisal is like you got to.
It's all research.
You're like handcuffed to an apprenticeship for years.
Which is good because it's a major advantage. I'm a listing agent and I harness that experience and I take marketing and emotion, which is what drives a lot of real estate deals, and I use it as a good synergy with research and sales comparison approach, and I scrub those two theories together to try to have a well-rounded.
You bring math to it.
I bring math
right?
to it.
I mean, that's what it's about because it's about the numbers, not just the emotion.
Absolutely. A direct approach and a fact-based approach has been sort of my kind of MO, I guess, in this business. Yeah.
Well, that's a huge advantage working as a listing agent and up at the lake. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with NFM Lending. And we're really just kind of introducing Rich and Marcus here from EXP and kind of bringing up your experience and how you got into real estate. So let's kind of go into the next question here, unless you have anything to add there. But I usually like to ask my guests, what really do you like most about being in real estate or being a listing agent or buyer's agent, whatever it might be? So,
yeah, excellent. So I love people. I've always loved people. I enjoy watching people run in their lane. It encourages me. It charges me to see people find success in life. And so if I can be a part of that process, I feel like I have a purpose. And real estate for me has kind of really solved that problem where I'm able to sort of serve the needs of my clients and my friends and family in a way that I couldn't before.
Yeah, great. Awesome. Rich?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I kind of look at this whole real estate career as a big chessboard. And instead of playing checkers like you do in a lot of careers where you're one move at a time, you're able to be a bit more preemptive and insightful in this business and work with the different personality types and see the problems coming ahead. And I think that when you're working...
Take down the king?
Take down, or take down the queen first, right? The king falls pretty naturally without the queen.
Well, true.
And I'm not using that as a metaphor for all males. I'm just talking chess, right? But so I kind of like the whole strategy of the business, and I do like the public because generally there's a lot of laughs in the process. People are crazy, and they're fun, and they're interesting, and they're high maintenance, and they're everything, just like we are.
Yep.
And navigating through that swell of emotions never seems to be a boring show for me.
That's right.
I've never seen high maintenance realtors. I've never worked with any of them ever.
Me either. They don't wake up until 10:30.
So it's an inside joke, folks, but we'll leave it there. So sort of in terms of, you both answered the question pretty interesting there, very different really. And for me, really serving the public and helping people achieve getting a mortgage loan, not really fun and exciting or sexy like it is finding this dream house, right? But there's something about helping people achieve the American dream that really feeds my spirit and drives me to help that next person have a good experience and feel like somebody cares, right? I think there's a lot of great mortgage professionals in the city of Charlotte, and I'm friends with a lot of them. But my approach really is to kind of make sure the customer knows that we care about them in the process and that we're going to get them to the finish line. Because again, mortgage lending, you guys know. I mean, if it's not the home inspection that's causing problems for you, right? It's the mortgage loan, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always mean that there aren't going to be bumps, but helping them get that get across the line and achieving that American dream is huge for me.
Without you, we couldn't get it done, right? So.
Well, and same here. Without you, I wouldn't have a paycheck. So,
well, it's a very tough situation, Chris. Like if you were to compare the entire process of buying home to going to a doctor's appointment, Marcus and I have the part of the job where we're the doctors, where you're talking before you have to start losing layers of clothes.
Right.
Once you expose that's where Chris comes in and has the very dirty work. Unfortunately, but fortunately for Chris, it's the most important part of the inspection.
True.
So I'm sorry that you have that side, but it's crucial. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, sometimes there's good and sometimes there's bad when you pull down the layers. So. Some people look a lot better without their clothes. That's what I'm going to say.
I really feel like the three of us are probably good examples of that.
That's right. But anyway, so good thing they can't see us too. But
sure, it's radio.
All right, so we're just about ready to wrap up this segment. What I do want to share with you is if there's anything along the way as you listen to our show, and we've got a couple more segments to go here with Marcus and Rich. But if there's anything that you hear and you want to utilize our services, whether you need to apply for a loan, whether you're refinancing or purchasing, or you're looking to buy or sell pretty much from Lake Norman all the way down to South Carolina.
Absolutely.
If you talk about that really covers the whole Charlotte metro market. Feel free to give me a call or shoot me a quick text message. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with the Marcus and Rich show here in just a moment. So stay tuned. Hey, Chris Reshatar here with NFM Lending. Are you still sitting on a high interest rate mortgage loan? Are you thinking about consolidating, paying off some of those credit card debts, or maybe doing some home improvement? Now's the time to call because interest rates are still at a 40-year low. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. I can also be found at themortgagegenius.com. Movement Mortgage is an equal housing lender and MLS license number 117266.
Did you know it has been reported that an estimated 80% of Americans have credit inaccuracies on their credit reports? Most people that have either inaccuracies or existing items that can be negotiated or adjusted do not know what their best score could be until they have found a new home, or buying a new car, or applying for a credit card. Then it's too late, and they have to accept a higher interest rate or lose the opportunity altogether. The time to work on improving your credit score is before you need it. Whether you have a 440, 640, or even a 740 FICO score, there is always room for improvement. The National Credit Care Team is comprised of individuals dedicated to helping the millions of consumers plagued by credit inaccuracies, errors, and fraud. It is our mission to help inform consumers and alleviate the stress of working with creditors and credit bureaus. Together, we can maximize your scores to get the best interest rates possible and save you money. Call now, 303-747-6390. That's 303-747-6390. Or visit us at www.nationalcreditcare.com.
Welcome back to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with NFM Lending. And we're back here in the studio. We have got Marcus Dilley and Rich Tomasini from eXp Realty here in the show. Welcome back here this morning. And we're excited because we've been talking a little bit about, well, we kind of did the intro, like who you are, right, why you got into real estate, etc. What I'd really like to do is have our listeners this morning maybe get your perspective from South Carolina all the way up to the lake. What do you think's going on with the housing market today? And maybe where it's headed.
Yeah, it's definitely still a seller's market at this point. We've had huge increases in some areas. Some have kind of leveled off. But overall, even the general Charlotte metro market, I think over the last 2 years, has gone up about 30%, which is just
that's crazy,
amazing number. So, obviously what goes up must come down, right? So at some point we've
or level off, right? Whatever.
Level off, right? We've got to correct. I'm not saying that there's a crash coming. But certainly we've got to do a correction. But for now, the markets are very strong. I'm still seeing a lot of multiple offers. In fact, I'm a listing agent as well. Several of the listings we have kind of overlisted, quite frankly. I don't typically like to do that. I think it's kind of like, extra weight. It's not going to help you, but, you have it on your body. It's not going to help you, but it's not going to kill you. at the same time, sometimes it can be detrimental. But in this case, I've seen several listings that we've listed a little higher than I would have even suggested, based on the market, because the appraiser is going to be looking at the same numbers the buyers.
Right, and we talked about your experience as an appraiser before, Rich, in the last segment. So you're right. I mean, sometimes that buyer actually pushes you higher than what you think it might appraise for.
The multiple offers have come in, and we've appraised, which I'm
like, wow,
surprised. So, but it also says something about where we're headed.
Right. It could mean that it could change.
Correct.
What are your thoughts, Rich?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a broad brush to make a statement about the market, and I think Marcus is right on point. I would maybe only add to the fact that the price range of around 250 and under is extraordinarily hot, and it's a seller's market, and appraisals are coming in because there's a lack of inventory, and appraisers are looking behind them, the last 6 months or a year, and realtors are always looking ahead, so there's a little bit of a reconciliation in those two different those two projections. But I think my average price range is a little over 500,000, and I think that market's a little soft, if you want me to be honest. At least up here in Mooresville, which is I pretty much focus in Mooresville,
right?
And some of the northern part of the lake off Sherrills Ford and Terrell. That section out there, if you're waterfront at 600, you're golden. But if you're a 3,500 square foot craftsman house at 550,
there's
pick one of many. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like it does start to turn when you start getting to that price point where the average American can't afford a $2,500 mortgage payment, right?
Yeah.
So you start to narrow how many people really are going to be able to fit there, and rates have been going up, so now it's more expensive to afford the same home this year than it was the same time last year. Just in general, I think we've seen about a 0.5 point increase in interest rate just over the last several months. All that goes into those listings at those higher dollars, what they're going to sell for, and how many people are going to jump in.
Profound statement, Chris. That's exactly what's happening. When you think about real estate, we can't be one-dimensional in thinking about the product. What we have to do is think about the psyche of the buyer and who our buyer is. So we have an aging boomer society that doesn't want 3,500 square foot houses, right? Yep. They want to liquidate some of their cash and enjoy. We have a millennial population out there that are the small house movement that have college debt through the roof, have a hard time qualifying for that house, and don't know if they even want to sign up for the concept. So our two biggest generations that we have are not conducive to a lot of the product that we have out there.
Yeah, and I feel like 10 years ago, that's all the market was building.
That's right.
It's the total antithesis of what's going on now.
Right, but yet at the same time, it's so expensive to build a home that if you talk to the builder community, they have a hard time building product below $300,000 because the cost of building just the lot and getting the house ready to put on the lot is so high compared to what it was 5-10 years ago. It's hard to find product that's going to even meet that millennial need.
And forget about it if you're an investor, right? The 1% rule is gone, by the wayside years ago.
Yeah. Well, investors, that's an interesting conversation with two things. If builders can only make 10 or 15% profit on a sub $300,000 house, it's really a scary concept. You can almost be better off flipping a house, Yeah. And then when you touch on investments, like Marcus said, I think investors are going about investing in real estate in such an amateur approach from what I've been able to deduct the last couple of years. I mean, true investors, in my opinion, buy multi-units. They're economy proof. Right? Yeah, they have income approach. Unless you're doing the vacation rentals, a $600,000 waterfront house is actually a great ROI as an investment property for a single family house. But this conventional way of buying $150,000, single houses, you got 10 yards to manage, 10 different properties, 10 different tenants. You get an 8-unit building. It's all under one roof. Your maintenance guy lives in one of the things. You have a common ground parking lot.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the education of, and there's a lot of national speakers out there and coaches out there that are touching on a lot of this stuff, but I think the way that we invest in real estate needs to evolve a bit, and I see that actually manifesting as time goes on and technology shares these viewpoints.
Yeah, well, lot really to talk about there. A really interesting perspective too, as you brought the millennial into the conversation. So, but we'll see what happens, because what I do know is we had a baby boom. I think it was starting 81, 82, where every successive year there were more children born for 9 years straight.
Yeah,
and we're really at the beginning of those baby boomers. They're now at age 31, which is about the age that they start to buy.
Right.
And now we're going to have 7-8 more years of more millennials entering the housing market. So it is interesting to kind of see how that phenomenon is going to roll out into the future. I really do think that first time buyer price point, which is really going to probably stretch to about 300, is going to be competitive for the next
Me too.
8 years.
Almost economy proof, maybe.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Well, because what's your other option? Renting. Right. So if you can own for nearly what you rent or less, and have a tax deduction,
you can rent on South End right here, and $1,600 a month for
well, here's the
800 square foot.
Rates, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing too, because if you think about it, I mean, all the youth. We were all young and crazy and wild, and the last thing you want to do...
Mostly you, but go ahead.
Well, the last thing you want to do is be congruent with society. You're it's a rage against the machine type of thing. And as we get older, I
love this guy?
Well, no, listen, I walk around the house now, and I shut the lights off in my house like my dad did, I'm 40 years old. So both, right? as you start, getting older, we start saying, okay, maybe the older people,
maybe they did have something.
Yeah, they've learned a lot recently.
They're getting smarter.
Yeah. Apparently so.
Cool. So, all right. Well, let's sort of slide over. We really kind of build out a theme more based on, should you work with a buyer's agent when you buy a home? And I apologize there. Let's step back for just a minute. What I'd like to really step back and say, tell me more about what you're doing at EXP and how that's going. Because it's kind of a new concept we're going to share.
It is. So EXP's been around since 2009. It was a West Coast company, and it changes the way real estate agents work within the business, which in turn changes the way that real estate agents work with their clients. So to break that down and simplify it a bit, is there's never been any residual income in the line of real estate, really. And it's a burnout business, unfortunately. I hate to say that. And most retirement plans for 1099s, it can be tough. It's emotionally taxing if you care.
Absolutely.
So if you care, you get penalized the most. And EXP has got two different lanes of generating income within the business that we do. So you have lane one, which is selling real estate. We do it lean. We do it on a cloud-based virtual real estate company. We have tools at our fingertips. That's great. Then we have a second lane where we are all owners of EXP. So we're shareholders, and we get awarded stock for milestones within our careers.
All right. So you've said a lot there, man. So I make sure our listeners connect with some of the stuff that you're saying. So let me step back and say, if you've worked with a real estate agent in the past, most of you don't understand that a realtor, number one, gets no salary of any kind. Number two, they're typically paid on a 1099. There's no taxes withheld from their pay stub like our everyday listener. And a real estate agent really is an independent contractor. Beyond that, because of that, there's no matching 401k. There's no insurance. There's no health insurance. A realtor is not just driving you around and making a big fat commission. They have a lot of expenses. In addition, you're paying for marketing on that house, signs, ways to get in and out of the house. Sometimes you're even doing repairs out of your own pocket to get a house done, to get a deal closed. All of this, all based on really kind of a self-employed business model.
Betting on yourself, hoping that you can sell it.
So you're saying EXP has maybe come up with a new concept for the agent community.
So exactly what you said, and let's just extract the word maybe. They've come up with a revolutionary platform for real estate agents to work in a much healthier way. So now we get stock as well. And the third lane is we have an agent attraction program to grow the company, which we've grown significantly from 1,500 agents to 8,000 agents in the last 2 years. So this is a movement.
It's starting to speak to the real estate community.
We're in 48 states. This is a revolution.
As an alternative to the traditional maybe real estate house.
There's some great the obsolete model of having a brick and mortar store and selling real estate by people that walk in your front door has lasted a long time, and we have great companies that do that well and amazing agents. We work for companies like that we love. This flips the entire script. We're working on the go through our cell phone, so we have a virtual real estate company, and we have a lot of autonomy and incentive to stay within the business and work it out. So that's what we like about this platform.
All right, so let's sort of break some of this down. You kind of danced around a little bit, but I want to make sure our listener can connect with these things. So you mentioned that the model attracts top performers when we were sort of preparing for the show. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think top performers are the best examples of the amount of money that we spend in our careers, the amount of emotional...
Invest in your career, honestly.
Invest, yes. The emotional stress of doing this at a high level, because instead of having 3 listings, we have 40.
Right.
It's compounding, right? And they're also the ones that are making the most amount of money. And when you talk to that base of people, I mean, I feel like I fall into that category despite my lack of sophistication in certain areas. But as you fall into that category, you start realizing that you are Bill Murray and this is Groundhog Day. And you have temporary solutions to permanent problems. And the thing I like about EXP that was pretty revolutionary was we finally have a permanent solution, and it's not free and it's not easy, and you have to work at it. It
doesn't solve all problems.
No, but it could solve the problems if you were tenacious about it, or lucky, and maybe a combination of both.
And how can that lead to a better experience for
Good question.
The buyer or seller?
Awesome. So we have autonomy. We have total autonomy, so we're business owners now, and our bills are less, so we can spend more money in advertising. We are linked in with
more
conversion.
Flexibility, really, in my mind.
Conversion is like the Ferrari of lead generation. We get it in EXP as agent owners. So we have all kinds of way to advertise that other people are charging us for. We have it for free, and we're making more money in the process, which means in turn we can recycle it. Just as EXPs recycle some of the profits back to us, we can therefore recycle it back to our clients and make a better experience financially for them.
And the mentorship, training, and support that we have for new agents, middle-sized agents, or even some of the heavy hitters is just unheard of. This sort of hive mind support mentality that we have by being a virtual real estate company is a revolutionary concept, and it allows us as agents, no matter where we are in the game, to bring the best of what we have to those clients so that we're serving them at the highest level possible.
Right. It seems like to me that it is really, at least based on just my conversations with you and a lot of the agents I know in this community that have supported me over the years, it's the bigger producing agents that are really looking at this model seriously and trying to sort of make a change. And I personally, as I speak to having left an amazing company recently and joined NFM Lending, I'm able to participate in my own local profits inside my branch and give back to the community with the profits that my branch generates. And Amen. So there's more meaning for me as an experienced professional as I get older. Yeah, I can maybe work smarter, maybe make a little bit more money, but I can also give back because that's an element that speaks to me now more than it ever did before. Because when I was young, it was like, get out of my way. I want to be successful. How do I get there? I'm there now. Now I want to help other people do it and give back and still be successful and provide for my family.
Chris, are you trying to tell us that if you're happier, that you're going to perform better?
No.
I don't know.
Can't be.
What a concept.
What a novel
could you imagine that as realtors, if somebody ever looked at us and said, hey guys, if you guys could just be a little happier, the world would be better?
This has nothing to do with any little pills that we know about. So. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. Yep. Again, you're listening to Reshair Radio, so please stay tuned. We'll be right back with the Marcus and Rich Show, and we'll be talking a little bit more about this revolutionary real estate company and maybe how that can help you buy and sell real estate in the future. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Chris Reshatar, host of Reshair Radio and loan officer with NFM Lending. Is home buying in your future? Buying a home is one of the most significant financial decisions you will make in your life. Each step in the process is important to ensure a smooth transaction. But the most important step, even before you look at houses or call a realtor, is to get pre-approved. A pre-approval is when a lender evaluates a loan applicant's eligibility for a home loan. The loan officer collects information such as their employment, income, assets, and current expenses. The lender then gives the applicant an idea as to whether or not they could afford a home loan or an approximate amount of loan they could qualify for. If you're looking for platinum level service and open communication through the loan process, call me, Chris Reshatar, at 704-277-4463. That is 704-277-4463. LO license number 117266, corporate license number 2893. Go to nfmlending.com for licensing information, or you can apply online today at themortgagegenius.com. Hey, Chris Reshatar here with NFM Lending. Are you still sitting on a high interest rate mortgage loan? Are you thinking about consolidating, paying off some of those credit card debts, or maybe doing some home improvement? Now's the time to call because interest rates are still at a 40-year low. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. I can also be found at themortgagegenius.com. Movement Mortgage is an equal housing lender and MLS license number 117266. Welcome back. You're listening to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with NFM Lending. I've got Marcus Dilley here and Rich Tomasini from EXP Realty, Team EXP. So we have been talking just in the previous segments a little bit about this concept of working under a revolutionary real estate company with EXP. And you guys have shared all kinds of stuff, how this model is attracting top performers. It provides you some flexibility, the model also gives you access to leads to help people get more exposure to their listings, and that you've got some autonomy. But what I really wanted to kind of bring back to our listener is, if you're buying and selling houses from Lake Norman all the way down into the suburban South Carolina, Charlotte market there, how is this process changing in terms of the way that a buyer buys a home, the way that a seller sells a home with technology? And what can you share with me and how EXP maybe leverages those technologies?
Well, hold on. We're going to say this in unison. You know where you're going? Because I don't know. Okay. So listen. Yeah. So here's one thing is that the process of people finding houses has totally changed in the last few years. What used to happen is, before we even had a central MLS, people would go to real estate offices and see what their book of business is. Now you get a phone call,
right? What houses are for
sale.
sale.
Now you got someone in an app that's looking at Zillow or Realtor and says, "Hey."
My grandmother was a realtor, went through that exact thing.
Yeah. So now information's power, and power is everywhere. So people will say, "Hey, listen, Rich, I saw this house on Main Street that I want to go see. Tell me what works." They're using us more for access until there's a serious level of interest.
Because you're still really the gatekeeper. At the end of the day.
Yeah. Thank goodness. Otherwise, we would be able to fulfill those other childhood dreams. Like,
you might not
trash
be in
man
this,
and truck driver, right?
Might not be here today.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so because the process has changed so much, and the information's changed so much, and buyers are doing a lot more due diligence before they even engage in the due diligence part of the contract. The real estate model has been fundamentally unchanged. And what's cool about EXP is that the technology has allowed us to be mobile, just like the buyers and sellers are mobile now. And it's allowed us to have a lot of the framework that was confining us in the way that the business worked.
We're able to meet them at the point of their need.
We're finally actually really just in sync. It's like a chiropractic adjustment. We've been out of sync, and now we've just got an adjustment, and we're all back in line. And I think that the straighter things are, the shortest path from A to B is always the most efficient, enjoyable experience.
So maybe a crack above the rest?
I don't know. All right, Chris, edit that. Go back and edit that one. Yeah.
All right.
Somebody give me a drink.
We'll keep plugging away here.
Okay.
But I mean, really, it sounds like to me you're just really saying that the EXP real estate concept is really bringing itself up to where the buyer is already experiencing.
That's right.
And I feel like, I'm going to jump in here because I am the lender in the show here, that the mortgage lending is also really, just in the last 5 years or so, it's, leveraging technology is becoming more and more important to the end user, that is our buyer, because we don't ever work with sellers for a mortgage, right?
You're sort of the
mortgage
spine of the process.
person is always a buyer. Right, so the spine, yeah. Who knows where that spine leads you? But anyway, let's just kind of talk about that, because really at the end of the day, more and more of my buyers are wanting to have that online experience. So I'll say, hey, you can do an online application on themortgagegenius.com, or I can get your information over the phone. But I think what's probably more important, though, is that the experience still matters behind the technology, right? Because at the end of the day, you guys are the ones with a decade plus experience. I'm probably getting close to 20 years. I don't want to admit that. But that really matters, because you can click on Zillow and you can find somebody, but who are you really talking to at the end of the day? The technology might be there, but anybody can leverage that technology if they hang their license in any real estate office.
That's right.
That end user, in terms of who the realtor is at the end of the day, still matters, and same with the mortgage professional.
There's a book out there called Good to Great, and one of the concepts in the book, one of the concepts of that book is it makes a distinction between good companies and great companies, right? And good companies,
school bus.
School bus. Good companies want to get the school bus in the right direction, so they load up all their people
on the bus, right?
They get all the players on the bus, and they all discuss what direction to go in. Great companies get the right people on the bus, and it'll naturally go in the right direction. Yeah. And that's the process. So, like, one thing hooking up with a guy like Chris is that for us, we want to have a good experience. We don't have to offer a home warranty or a free CMA. You can get that from anybody that can fog a mirror. We want you to have a capable agent that's going to give you a good experience. This is an investment, and it can be enjoyable concurrently. And that's why we seek out people like Chris. We want to be able to hand the ball off to somebody who is going to take it and finish the relay race and continue that experience. So in the end, with all of the new technology and revolutionary ways that the world's changing, relationships are still important, competency is still important, and the protocol and process of the business needs to be lined up well for it to all be a good experience for the
That's
homeowner.
right.
Here.
Absolutely. Dilley.
Dilly.
Yeah.
Can I say that?
Absolutely.
Marcus has had more nicknames than
I'm
I've
sure.
had girlfriends.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Well, so let's bring that back to now, just so our and really, I should probably jump in real quick and just say, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Chris Reshair. I'm a licensed loan officer with NFM Lending and your host of Reshair Radio, and we've got Rich Tomasini and Marcus Dilley here from EXP Realty. And we've been talking about the housing market, some of the revolutionary concepts that EXP is sort of bringing to the marketplace. But what I really want to do is maybe sort of, remind our listeners that if you want to buy a home, that's what we're here to help you with. If you want to sell a home, we're here to help you with that. Or if you need to qualify for a loan, that's what I do. So let me give you my number real quick. The number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463.
Oh, Chris.
That's right. Thank you. But and all I want you to do is send me a text message and say, I need Rich and Marcus, and I'll make sure I connect you guys to them after the show. But we've got about 5-6 minutes left of our show here before we wrap up, and then we roll into our credit repair guide that have our last segment. But I want our end listener, the person that may need our real estate services in some format, to understand a little bit more about what your day-to-day services are in terms of being a full-service real estate company. So does one of you work with buyers more than sellers, or maybe you could one of you could take one and one of you take the other?
Yeah, I mean, I work more with sellers, but I also work with buyers. So, my application, it's important for me to get to know the client and what their needs are. It's important for me to kind of tailor the system to them. I've been in real estate a long time. I've sold everything from $50,000 properties to $5 million properties. So I've been a builder, and I'm an investor. I've also been a property manager. So I'm
And a singer.
Yeah, true. And a singer. And a dancer. No. But so I've been really blessed because I'm a little bit of a unicorn in this business, because most people really understand only one section or the other. They're either just get real estate, or they just get investment, or they just get the building process. And I've been able to kind of have experience with all three, which makes me a
that's
bit
cool.
more dangerous, than the typical real estate agent. So I'm really big on, again, getting to know the client, getting to know exactly what their needs are, and then meeting those needs and exceeding them based on the expectations that they have.
Awesome. What, in terms of working with buyers, if a buyer from our show calls in today and they may want to work with you, what does it cost a buyer to buy their first home?
What does it cost them?
Is there a fee associated with using your services?
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So the listing agent, the seller typically pays the commissions primarily. So there's no really set fee or set process, but usually the listing or the seller will pay the commissions, and then the buyer receives a portion of that at closing. The buyer's agent, rather, receives a portion of that at closing.
Okay, so
really, it's free representation for the buyer, I guess.
So really, if we've got buyers out there that might be listening, or maybe someone hears this on your website, if you put this show recording on later, really at the end of the day, if you're looking for buyers, buyer needs to understand that there really isn't a cost to using a buyer's agent when you want to buy a home.
No, there's definitely a cost. The cost is that if you make the mistakes without having a realtor, they could be quite expensive.
Well, good point, Rich, and I think we all know that.
Yeah.
But there is no cost for a buyer's agent.
Yeah, I think that's important, because I think sometimes we've got that millennial generation that, like you said, that's been waiting to buy a home. They don't always understand that, you don't want to go to a court without an attorney. You don't want to buy a house without a realtor. And Marcus, you would absolutely, I'm sure, welcome a call from anybody on the show or subsequently that listens to our show later, that really there's no hesitancy why a buyer that wants to buy a home shouldn't talk to a realtor.
That's right. That's probably one of the most important things you're ever going to do.
I agree.
Yeah, and if you don't know terms like due diligence money, structural engineer problems, radon, termite, insect, mold, how to deal with the attorneys, lender obstacles, mineral rights, seller property disclosures. If you don't know those terms well, a buyer's agent could be handy for you.
That's right.
And I work with a lot of first-time home buyers. I work with a lot of move-up buyers. I work with a lot of investors. And I've got 100 plus reviews online, and I love it when my clients come to me after the fact, especially first time home buyers that know nothing, and they're literally putting their lives in my hands, and I can help them have the smoothest experience possible. So at the end of the day, they're saying, thank you for helping me understand this process. So along the way, not only did I feel supported and comforted, but now I've hit the bullseye.
Perfect. And then Rich, we're going to use you on the listing side. Give us a couple thoughts about your day-to-day full service experience as a listing agent.
Yeah, so I mean, I've sold in the top 1% of the MLS here for a long time, and exclusively as a listing agent. I don't really work buyers at all unless they're longtime clients of mine when they helped me out when I was first going, and I just won't say no to certain people. But the listing process is really based on comes down to one simple premise, and it's not a magic show in the front yard. Is the house priced appropriately for the floor plan, the upgrades, the square footage, the lot size, the location, all of those things. So I try to nail that, and when I nail that, and normally the whole process is great. Setting expectations is important. If you were looking at buying or selling a house, I think Marcus and I've been friends for a long time. He's a solid agent. I'm pretty much only at this point working with a select few group of clients, so I'm not looking for any real estate business in the radio show. But Marcus is tearing it up, and I'm older than I wanted to be still in this business, so I'm spending more time with my wife and son and traveling. But yeah, there's Marcus is a great agent. I'm a good agent up in Mooresville in 28117, and you have a couple of very good options here for you if you chose to interview some agents for your next process.
Perfect. Well, gentlemen, this has been an awesome show to have you both here. Hopefully we can have you back in the future and talk more about what you have to share.
Can we put our clothes back on, Chris?
Yes. But no, it's been an awesome show. What I'd like to just simply say that before we head on to our next break into our very last segment is that we've got Adam Kunda up next with National Credit Care. Adam is actually an expert contributor of Reshair Radio, so he's on our show each and every month bringing great credit tips. And that is an important element of the home buying process. If your credit is not perfect, there's a lot of things that you can do through working through my team and Adam's team at National Credit Care. So, gentlemen, again, thank you for being on the show. We'd love to have you back.
Chris. It's an honor to be here. We appreciate
please stay tuned. We got one more segment of Reshair Radio. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Did you know it has been reported that an estimated 80% of Americans have credit inaccuracies on their credit reports? Most people that have either inaccuracies or existing items that can be negotiated or adjusted do not know what their best score could be until they have found a new home or buying a new car or applying for a credit card. Then it's too late and they have to accept a higher interest rate or lose the opportunity altogether. The time to work on improving your credit score is before you need it. Whether you have a 440, 640, or even a 740 FICO score, there is always room for improvement. The National Credit Care Team is comprised of individuals dedicated to helping the millions of consumers plagued by credit inaccuracies, errors, and fraud. It is our mission to help inform consumers and alleviate the stress of working with creditors and credit bureaus. Together, we can maximize your scores to get the best interest rates possible and save you money. Call now, 303-747-6390. That's 303-747-6390. Or visit us at www.nationalcreditcare.com.
Welcome to Reshair Radio. I'm your show host, Chris Reshatar, licensed loan officer with NFM Lending, license number 117266, and we're back here in the studio. You've heard some of our earlier segments. Now I'd like to actually highlight one of our expert contributors, Adam Kunda.
Hey, good morning.
Kunda. I keep saying that wrong. You don't even correct me ever.
Well,
Kunda.
my mom and dad say Kunda. I say Kunda.
Okay, so your whole family says it different.
Everybody's right.
Everybody's right? Okay,
Everybody's
cool.
right today.
So with National Credit Care, he's back in the studio. I like to say he's a repeat offender. But as always, Adam, we've had you on the show. Gosh, it's been over a year or so now.
Yes,
Maybe
sir.
it's going on 2 years that you've been sponsoring Reshair Radio. And it's a pleasure to have you. We know that you actually work all across the country and are here in the studio with us this morning. So we've got all kinds of topics that we're gonna kind of touch around. But I'd like to sort of introduce you and the company, what you do. Why don't you give our listeners a flavor for what's that all about?
I understand. My name is Adam Kunda. I work with National Credit Care. We are a credit restoration firm. I use the word restoration because I think most firms just focus on repair, which is just talking about negative credit. There's a big part of our program is making sure that the client understands the positive elements of the credit score and what we can do to boost those up, to shape and mold and maintain a better credit score, because really only 35% of the score is negative information, or up to 35% of the score. Even this weekend, conversations with a lot of friends are saying, hey, I don't really know the positive credit. I just want to get these collections paid off to get my credit score up. So, we're a full service program. We're trying to help alleviate maybe some of those negative items. Some of them may be mistakes on credit reports. There's actually an alarming number stating that 80% of credit reports have errors on them.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. You look at these reports all day long.
Credit reports all day long, and the customer, that's not mine, or that was my sister's, or my dad has the same name, and we see duplications, all kinds of stuff.
Juniors and seniors.
Seniors, yeah.
Information.
By the way, folks, don't name your kid after yourself with the exact same name. Can we say that on air? I think we can, right?
I think we can. It's a suggestion.
Just a suggestion.
It's a suggestion. But yeah, luckily my last name, Kunda. I don't have anything and never have had anything on my report that crosses over. Very rare last name, but if you do have a common last name, yep, you're going to have some stuff on your report that's not yours.
Absolutely.
Yep. So yeah, that's what we're doing. We're taking clients, we're coaching them month in, month out, giving them a set of prescriptions, the playbook to get a better credit score. And I think
ESPN likes playbooks, by the way.
Yeah, we do, right? So the thing that's important is, if you do want to talk about a playbook, everybody's starting from a different point in the field trying to get the touchdown. So, it does take some time to get there, but it is a specific route for every individual. Just because you're looking online at your credit score or your, prescriptions on how to fix a credit score doesn't mean it's right for you. So I always highly recommend getting a coach so that they can write up a playbook for you. And that's what we do, is help you understand what your credit score is, why it is where it is, and how we can get it to where you're trying to go. Because just looking at negative information, again, like most repair firms are going to do, are not always going to be the easy fix.
Well, so I have a quick question for you. So, if I'm a consumer, how do I know who to trust?
Sure. I think that's important. You got to look for licenses is important as well. Down in South Carolina, I'm a licensed as a credit counselor, just like you have a mortgage license here. So there's different states have different regulations. But yeah, I find, to be honest, most people out there are not trustworthy in this. They have figured out how that they can dispute your credit. It does cost you money to do so, and you could have done that for free. That's not what we do here. We're trying to give prescriptions to clients that are specific to them. So you need to ask questions. Hey, what are you doing to the credit? Are you looking at positive credit? Are you just disputing the negative trade lines? Because if that's the case, that's not the company you're looking to do business with.
Right. So let's just assume that one of our listeners has less than perfect credit.
Sure.
And, we asked that question, like, who do you trust? Well, where are the first resources they should go to even ask the question?
I think FICO.com is a good place to start to just understand credit scoring. There is a list of people who are trusted in the credit repair industry, but even looking at this list and doing this for 7 years, I have found a lot of these companies that are labeled as trustworthy typically aren't doing the job. I find them at maybe 6 to 8% of the clients are actually getting returned from most credit repair firms into the lending process. That's not strong numbers. I'm getting about 40 to 50% return. That is based off of the person I'm working with's capabilities. Are they listening to what I'm saying? Are they doing what I'm saying? And I find that anybody that's listening executes it. They're, staying in the end zone.
They're motivated
with the ball. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I appreciate the analogy there, because it's amazing how, and I go back to sort of how your credit affects who you are, right? And your credit self-esteem. That's probably a self-coined term, folks, but it works. But hear me out. For someone that's got less than perfect credit, I've seen where they come to me and say, I'd like to buy a house. Usually they have a house in mind, right? They somehow got in front of a house or found something on Zillow and they get all excited, but they kind of know deep down that my credit's not that good, right? And then they reach out, we start the qualification, and then I affirm their fear, and that is, you aren't ready. One of the things that my team prides ourselves on is really just as quickly as possible trying to get that customer on a path to home ownership, and that's by sending the information to you and your team, Adam, with their permission, saying, hey, look, don't give up hope just yet.
Sure.
Hang in there. talk to these folks over at National Credit Care. Let them do a free evaluation. Even if you do nothing and you don't even do any of this credit restoration, as you had mentioned, utilizing your services over at National Credit Care, at least talk to them.
Absolutely.
And maybe get some ideas. But when you say we see about 40% of the people who actually get some results, it's because those 40% stayed with it. Said, I want to try this and I'm going to get through this. It's very easy to sort of get to that bad space, right? Absolutely. Where you're right back to where you were. It's like, yeah, I knew my credit wasn't good. And you shut down and say, I'll just run another year. And then, you know what, 12 months later, you're in the same position because you haven't done anything different.
Yep.
The behavior hasn't changed. So guess what? The result's not going to change either. So,
sure.
So really the message, in my opinion, for our show today is, yes, we want you to know who to trust, what the resources are, and maybe how you can connect with Adam.
Sure.
But the message is don't give up. Like, stay in the game. You got to push through if you want to win the game. And if you just hide behind what's going on, you're really not going to get into that home down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I will stress if you are using Chris as a lender and he does turn you down, it's not like you can go to another lender and they're going to give you a different credit score.
There's not a lot of differences from lenders.
That's the time to not go find somebody else thinking you're going to find a different result. It's a time to take some action. And I'm sure you're aware, a lot of false credit scores or just misleading credit scores are given to our consumers. Credit Karma is a place where you can go get a credit score, but that score does not correlate to what we're doing here in the mortgage industry. So, you might see a 700 score on paper, probably not what you're going to have in the mortgage industry. So I think that It is a very, very strong first decision to sit down with a mortgage lender, get the credit pulled, and just figure out a time frame, how long this is going to take. Typically, it's about a 6 to 9 month time frame to get you cleaned up, straightened out, and ready to go and back to Chris.
But that flies, right? So real quick, if you have any interest in giving Adam and I a call or a quick text message, my number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. And I can run a free credit report for you, even if we know your score's not super high, and we can get you on a path to home ownership over at Adam's team and go from there. So Adam, why don't we talk about maybe some of the credit types, the kinds of pools that are out there, and just educate our listeners about that.
Yeah, great lead. And we just talked about Credit Karma. Credit Karma is a site that does generate a credit score. And my kind of phrase here is that all credit scores are credit scores, but only the credit scores we care about are the FICO credit scores. So there is a company out there called Fair Isaac Corporation. They do come up with the credit scoring models for the financial industries. So auto industry is going to give you a specific set of credit scores. Mortgage industry will be very different. It brings in different sets of weights and models when we're approving and denying for a home loan.
So that's why when a customer calls me and says, well, wait a second, when I ran my credit, it was a 702.
Correct.
And reality, when the mortgage lender runs it, we come in with a 668.
Correct.
And those are very different scores, especially if you're doing conventional financing.
Sure.
Can way impact the interest rate. And occasionally I get this sort of wall of frustration from the client, like, well, what are you doing? Wait, that's not my score. You must have screwed something up.
Right.
In reality, the consumer doesn't always know that the Credit Karma model is different from what a mortgage lender is going to use.
Yeah, the FICO model.
The FICO model, and you said there are how many different variations?
There's 55 FICO models that are in use today in the financial industry.
That's crazy.
Some of these are obsolete. I mean, FICO has been out since the 70s. So, 80s, 90s has some algorithms that were generating credit score. They've kind of built in a little bit of changes to those. But still, since 2005, we're still dealing with the same credit scoring models that we were. So, that's kind of where we're at today. No changes in the economy have been built in.
So what else do you want to share with our listeners? We got about 3 minutes here before we wrap up our show today.
Sure. I just want to stress getting credit is a good thing to just know where you're at and where to go get that. There's a website that FICO actually does run called myfico.com, and you can go get a report and score there. And again, we're talking about FICO scores and the differences in between them, right?
And that's MYFICO.
Correct. MYFICO.com. But what FICO score are you getting there? Again, there's very different industries in credit scoring. So just because your myfico.com credit score says a specific number, it might be very different than what you go get when you're actually applying for those funds. Chris, you're using a different mortgage algorithm, I promise, than myfico.com is using. So
expect a range. It could be a little higher, could be a little lower, but you need to understand it may vary.
Correct. But there's still going to be almost a little bit of misleading information like Credit Karma is going to give you. But, it is a FICO run website, so please just don't be misled in the differences between FICO scores and the FICO scores you're getting from a mortgage lender or a credit card company or an auto lender. These are all very different weights and models for that industry.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, if you have any questions as well, you are more than welcome to call or text me as well. 720-556-1959. I'll get you to my cell phone. If you do need to email me, if that's best for you, adam@nationalcreditcare.com.
And give them your phone number one more time, a little slower, so we can get that in.
Awesome. 720-556-1959.
Perfect. So that's the way you can get a hold of Adam. You can tell just by our conversation here, Adam's got a lot of depth and knowledge of the credit industry. And we're going to call him the credit genius. I'm technically the mortgage genius, the mortgagegenius.com, but we got to get you that domain, Adam. I don't know if that's available. You have to check to see.
Yeah.
But
yeah, again, just to kind of close here on this segment, it is important to just find somebody to trust. Call me, ask questions. I can build trust with you. If you have been, misled or done wrong by another company, don't give up. This is a very easy process. I've helped hundreds of people get into homes. You can be one of those as well.
Absolutely. So just so that you know, if you need my services as a loan officer, you're looking to buy a home in North or South Carolina, I'm even licensed in many other states, but assume our listeners are in this area. My number is 704-277-4463. That's 704-277-4463. You can do an application online at themortgagegenius.com. That's 3 words, themortgagegenius.com. It's quick and simple. And just finally, if there's anything in the show that you have were intrigued by, really, and you want to check us out again, reshairradio.com, and it's RESH, like the first half of my last name, and then the word air, and then the word radio.com. So you can listen to any show in its entirety back at reshairradio.com. So as always, Adam, it's been a pleasure having you on our show once again, and appreciate your sponsorship and support of the show over this several years here. And look forward to having you on future shows. And our listeners, as always, thank you for listening to Reshair Radio. We'll be back next Sunday at 10 a.m. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Chris, so much.